Hi, this is Gary Collins and Heath Squier of the Primal Show, and today we're going to be talking with Frank Montenegro, correct? Did I pronounce your last name
Yes,
right?
sir, you
I've
did.
known you a while now, Frank, so I should get that right.
Yes.
Me and Frank met probably about, what, a year or so ago, I would
Yeah.
say.
How about that? Yeah.
Yeah, in a little small town where my sister lives and my mother comes and visits and I go and visit. And we met in a Starbucks and he saw my Primal Power Method shirt as I was pounding furiously away at my keyboard writing something hopefully interesting. And that's where the
Always
whole
interesting.
conversation started, and come to find out Frank was in the process of following the primal paleo lifestyle, and he was going through it, and he was an Abel James, it still is an Abel James fan,
Yes,
and I was on Abel James not too long ago, and
that's
Frank
right.
kind of spurred that by hitting him up on Twitter and telling him he had to interview me because I was such a great guy.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so basically what I want to talk about is, since you're a real living primal paleo person, as far as starting from ground zero and going through the process. I like to kind of relate to our followers, people who have gone through it and are still going through it, because we're always going through it, and kind of how you got, first start with how did you discover it and what got your curiosity perked and how you did it.
I guess like a lot of people, I've been up and down with my weight my whole life. When I was a kid, I grew up eating, the last name like Montenegro. There's a good chance you've grown up eating, like I did, homemade tortillas. My mom is a Mexican lady, and all the oil and everything else, and the bread and the tamales and everything growing up. And it kind of whacked my, by the time I was in my 30s and beyond, pretty much had dad, God bless my mom. I still love her food, but she didn't know. And that stuff, as you know, Gary, what whacks you out. And
Yeah.
so my weight went up and down. I think it was basically I was about 24, 25, and I was 267,
Wow.
267 pounds, and I just,
And how tall are you?
I'm only 5'10".
Okay.
And so, well, with my shoes on, I'm 5'10". But, long story short, that was the first time I said, I'm done with it. And what I did was, I probably did it the wrong way. You guys will have to chime in on this, but I started from day one running 5 miles every day
Wow.
from this big heavy set guy in his mid 20s, and started eating very, very little, starving myself, eating a small dry baked potato and a plain chicken breast, and you know grape nuts with non-fat milk and no sugar, and plain pasta, all the things that I didn't know any better. And I
I did
lost a lot of
too.
weight.
I did the
I
same
lost a
thing.
lot of weight. I got down to maybe not so good, about 157 pounds,
Wow.
That's
with a
impressive.
28, 29-inch waist, and I could run 5 miles and stop, and I wouldn't be breathing hard. And that was okay for a while. And then I kind of discovered weightlifting, and I started to pack a few new muscles on. When you're in your 20s, it's easier to do, and started eating more food and different types of food, but still eating, clean. And did that for a while and got bored with it, and kind of up and down my whole life. And about a year and a half, 2 years ago, um, my wife Sabrina, who's always been uh, a fitness proponent, healthy eating proponent, she had always urged me, and I was back up again. I was right around 230 or so, and just decided I needed to do something about it. And I stumbled upon this word paleo, and looked into it, Googled, and up popped Abel James, as Gary mentioned. And the idea of it, and really Abel will tell you, he'll say he's not paleo, he's paleo-ish, he's more real food, more primal, if anything else.
Yeah.
And so I tried to go strict paleo for a while, and kind of did, but I was kind of eating the dairy and things like that. But and so that doesn't make it, I guess, paleo, strict paleo. But anyway, up and down, and uh, then my wife happened onto Gary's book. We were just like, yes, this is it. This is like, it's because you start to listen to too many people. It was Abel James and all these other people in this space, in this realm, and
Yeah.
you just kind of sort of, I did anyway, sort of an information overload. And it's, well, this, well, that, well, don't eat carbs after 4 o'clock, and this and that and the other thing, and sprint, don't sprint, run, don't run, and lift, don't lift. And I'm just like, and when we stumbled upon Gary that day in the Starbucks, my wife's all, look at his shirt, what does it say? Primal, say hi to him. And I'm like, so I walked over, and we met Gary. Gary was just this great guy, and very approachable, extremely knowledgeable. And we got the book, and Primal Power Method, and it just really connected with us. We really connected with the book. It made sense. It was like simple but right in every sense. Everything that Gary's put forth in the book was just, it was simple but accurate, and it's really helped me to take a more realistic, simple approach to it, armed with incredible knowledge, undeniable truth and facts about how we're built, and what we should eat, and what we might not want to eat. But one of the things that really resonates with the primal lifestyle for me is that you don't have to beat yourself up if you once in a while have a piece of sprouted bread or something, or you don't. At least that's sort of been the way I've approached it. About 3 months ago, I started lifting weights. My wife and I joined again. I started lifting weights after 25 years of not lifting, and so I'm seeing that my body's making more changes now. I've added some muscle. I've gained about 10 pounds in the last 3 months. I'm hoping half of it's muscle. There's a little bit of extra body fat now where there wasn't, but I'm not going to beat myself up about it. And Gary, we were talking the other day.
Yeah.
You were very gracious, and you said, don't beat yourself up about it. Just continue on the journey, and so that's kind of where I'm at.
How has your sugar and kind of carbohydrate level been now that you're back in the gym? I mean, have you been trying to watch more your blood sugar level, or?
Well, depending on as you fellas know, well, for me anyway, depending on the type of exercise I do, I'll have maybe a sweet potato after a sprinting session, or a grass-fed steak with some whole fat cottage cheese and some berries, and that seems to satisfy that when you're feeling kind of wiped out afterward,
Sure.
But I don't eat I don't eat anything like cupcakes, or once in a while I'll have ice cream, but no candy bars, none of that garbage. I just don't like it. I don't like the way it makes me feel. But I must confess that since I've been lifting weights, maybe this is what you're wondering, Heath. Since I've been lifting weights again, I lift as heavy as I can, about 3 days a week, and I try to rest. But I was in the market the other day, and I saw a loaf of sprouted grain bread, and I'm like, I gotta have this. Oh my God, I gotta have some. So I put it in the freezer, and about once a week I allow myself one slice toasted with some nice almond butter and some organic jam, and I have it, and I don't beat myself up about it. I'm feeling good, and
I'm a little biased. I might have to send you some almond bread.
oh, I would love that. Love that. Yeah, man, we would love that.
Yeah, I think that's a key, Frank, and you hit a good point. Is a lot of people, it's 2 points: the information overload, and then the beating yourself up. I mean, me and you've had a couple conversations where I could tell you were so confused. You're pulling so many philosophies together, and this happens to a lot of people. And I've had actual people write me and go, you clarified. They go, I didn't realize what I'd done, but I had applied every book I had read into what I was doing, and instead of making progress, I had actually regressed and gone the opposite way because I was so confused. And that's part of the problem. Is I always tell people, find a philosophy you believe in that works for you, stick with it. Don't get too scattered out there. Don't make this stuff too complicated. It's not that hard, huh, Frank? Once you get the basic bones of it, it's pretty straightforward. And that's what I work on, and that's what my writings are all about, is simplification. Make it easy. Don't make it hard. I'm not here to sell you the next book on a whole nother philosophy I come up with to confuse you. The principles always stay the same.
Yeah, I think Gary and I both share that belief where let's make it simple. We like to work out in a reasonable fashion. We don't try to overwork out. We're all about making it easy, and we do that through cleaning up our diet. And the more you minimize sugar and carbohydrates and kind of keep with either like a ketogenic, primal, or paleo kind of template, the faster you're going to get those results. Now, if you cheat every now and then, that's fine. It might hinder your results, and some people are affected way more than others. Like if I was to have like a bowl of black beans, if I have one bowl of black beans, I'm done. Like I'm puffy for like 2 or 3 days. My body doesn't metabolize carbohydrates very well. Other people, like my wife, could have carbohydrates and they process it really well and it doesn't show up. And that's just, some people have more enzymes than others, and as we get older, our enzymes are depleted in our body. So it just depends on your genetics. But
Right.
at the end of the day, if you want to like just blast fat off your body, just dump the sugar and carbohydrates. It's really easy. I mean, it's not that hard. Get rid of the gluten. It's just gumming up your whole intestinal tract. Do a little colon cleanse. Why not? And there's so many things we can eat. Gary and I talk about this all the time. We could have avocado, grass-fed meat, steak, fish. I mean, everything. Like, there's so many things we can focus on. Why get caught up with like eating the wrong thing or what we can and can't eat? Because there's so many things we can eat, and it's so easy to eat this way. And you're going to get amazing results. And you don't have to work out that hard. That's the great thing about it. You don't. If you're on point with your diet, it's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's consistency is what it boils down to. And people need to understand too, there's going to be, humans have evolved to go through weight fluctuations. It was a survival mechanism. That doesn't mean you go blow up and put on 40 pounds during the winter. And that's where people take it wrong. But understand your weight's going to fluctuate through the year. Don't worry about it. Seasonally, your weight would fluctuate.
Yeah.
Just don't freak out. Don't think, oh my God, I've put 5 pounds on. I'm going on a smoothie cleanse for the next 30 days.
Oh, yeah.
And people will do that. And they just wreck their bodies. They wreck their metabolisms. And then it's so hard for them to get back on track once they go to that extreme. And what's one of the primal power principles is don't go to extremes. Never do an extreme. Stay away from that.
One of the mistakes, I'm sorry, Gary, go ahead.
What's that?
One of the mistakes I think I made, and you guys will have to speak to this. You guys are the experts. I'm certainly not. But I think when I started lifting weights, before I started lifting weights, here's what I was doing. Just as recently as a year and a half ago, as recently as 6 months ago, it was because I live out in the desert, the California high desert. I was running the trails, and there was some uphill stuff, fairly uphill upgrade, and I was doing that 3 or 4 days a week, 5 miles, but it was walk hike type exercise, and then I would sprint once or twice a week, and I would do hundreds and hundreds of push-ups, like 300 push-ups in a 30-minute session. I would really just push myself. Probably every 4 days I do push-ups, and I was eating a lot of beef and salads and sweet potatoes and butter and bacon and all that stuff. Not as many veggies as I should. My wife's always on me about that. And I was continuing to see fat loss, but maintaining about 194, 195. But my waist remained the same and everything else. And when I started lifting weights, I don't know, maybe you guys can speak to it. What I do is maybe Monday, chest, shoulders, and triceps with 70 or 80 pound dumbbells and up as much as I can, and then, blah, blah, blah. And I lift as heavy as I can 3 days a week, but I pulled back on the cardio. And I continued with the same amount of calories. And I added a few things like bars. I won't say which kind of bars. I don't want to badmouth another company, but it rhymes with. No, I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, almost came out, Frank.
But anyway, what do you think? Do you think maybe I should lift a little lighter, or maybe do, instead of Monday chest, shoulders, triceps, Tuesday or Wednesday back and biceps, Friday legs? Maybe I should do like Monday or Tuesday and Friday full body workout and run more, or maybe
Well,
add an extra sprint. What do you
what you
think?
hit on the head, Frank, is me and he talk about this a lot. Is even though you don't have to count calories, and I never do.
Yeah.
I never have. I think I tried once over a decade ago, and it was such a pain in the butt that I never did it again. But you can't ignore calories. You
Right.
have to still put them in the equation, and me and he talked about that, a couple of episodes ago.
Yeah, I remember that
And
was a great show.
all that you did is you changed your exercise level and your energy expenditures, but you didn't change what you were intaking. And that's very common too. People will change their exercise routine, but what they do is they continue to eat the exact same way they ate before because it's become a pattern now.
Yeah.
And what you have to do is you have to let your body talk to you. So once you change that exercise habit, you have to let your body adjust and go, okay, I'm hungry now for this instead of that. And you're going to have to draw back on the carbs. I mean, if you're doing less cardio, you have to drop carbs. That's just a natural phenomenon. You're bringing in more calories than you can burn, and you're doing it in a starchy carb format, in a sugar format. So it's going to be you're going to store fat, more insulin.
Yeah, an ideal range for cardio is like 20 minutes. You're going to be in a prime like fat
Yeah.
burning mode. You go 30 minutes, you're going to go to cardio. That's like more cardio. That's fine too. But get your carbs from fiber. Okay, so when you look at an ingredient label, for every gram of fiber, there's 1 gram of carbohydrate. So if you are going to consume carbohydrates, make sure the number of fiber and carbohydrates are close together. Make sure you're eating vegetables. Get your carbs from veggies. I mean, it stinks to steam up vegetables. It really does. Maybe find a place close to your house that can steam them for you, and just get them to go. I do that all the time. I'm like, I don't feel like steaming up some broccoli. I will pick it up on the way home from work. I mean,
Yeah.
get them in one way or another. Broccoli is so amazing, but it's so easy to consume too many carbs. And if you're going to consume more than 10 net carbs, I would say in a single meal, you're kind of outside of a range where you could knock yourself out of that prime fat burning mode, which you want to stay within. And it's really easy to do. Make sure when you consume berries, don't consume more than what you can put in just the palm of your hand.
Okay.
Same with nuts too.
Oh God, I
I,
love like almonds
Again,
and walnuts.
the,
yeah.
the potato chip of paleo and primal is what I call that. It really is. I mean, I've gotten caught doing it too.
I know that.
At the end of the day, you go, I've literally eaten a pound of nuts in one day, not realizing.
Oh my goodness.
And you just go, what have I done? And not to say it's wrong, but what happens is I actually don't buy nuts all the time anymore. I buy them on occasion because they are like a potato chip. I go back and go back and go back, and yeah.
Apples are another great one. If you're going to crave any sort of fruit, go for an apple because they
wow.
have fiber, so they're going to curb your appetite. You're not going to crave, other sorts of foods that aren't good for you, and they don't seem to have a real effect overall on weight. So
Okay.
you could have
Apple's
3 a
good.
day, have one at the end of each meal, and you'll find yourself starting to crave less, junk food.
Oh wow. Okay. I was under the impression that you could only have and I'm just so glad to hear you say that.
Yeah.
Well, don't eat very much fruit at all. I mean, keep it to berries and stay with that. I'm
See,
glad to know
it's-
that. I love a good organic, Fuji, or a good organic, Granny Smith. Oh man.
Yeah, try
It's-
to keep with a red apple though. Red,
okay.
red is best. So like,
Okay.
you definitely want to look for a Red Delicious. There's the Pink Lady.
Okay.
Stuff like that. It's better for your heart. There's all sorts of health benefits. So
Well,
Well, one of the tricks in voiceover. What if I'm in a voiceover session and I've got a little something in my throat? If the voice is scratchy, or if I've driven to LA after a long drive for an audition or something, which I don't do much anymore with the internet. Do you guys remember the name Mel Blanc? He did Bugs Bunny. He did Yosemite Sam.
Yeah.
Mel Blanc, the great Mel Blanc. One of the things he left us with was his trick was if he had a scratchy voice, one apple, just one bite. That's another. That's one of my little. Anyway.
Very
Well, the
cool.
thing with where me and Heath differ a little bit on that is my attitude is you want to stay away from those fruits if you're in fat burning mode. You're trying to lose weight and you're going through the process, but once you've kind of reached your goals and you're in maintenance, you
Yeah.
can add an apple in, you can add a banana in and test it and see where you go.
Yeah.
The where the berries comes from is more for people who are, like I say, trying to lose weight. But once you're there, you can experiment with different fruits and bring them in and see how you do. But certain people I know if I ate 3 apples a day, I'd probably start to put on a little weight.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
not necessarily. It would just depend on my expenditures again. You could eat 3 apples a day, no problem,
Yeah.
if you're doing the proper amount of exercise. But me and Heath agree on this. Once you get past 30 minutes of cardio, I don't know if there's a real good benefit to it anymore.
Oh.
I'm not a big long distance runner or anything like that anymore. I used to run longer distances when I was younger. To me, it's just too hard on my body as I age. Um, but for the average person, anything over 30 minutes, I think, is too much. And especially once you get into your 40s and 50s, I think it's better to stay under that. But there's nothing wrong with going out once every week or a couple weeks and go on a long run. But most people do it 3, 4 times a week,
Yeah.
and they're just pounding their bodies and pounding their joints.
Let
I
me
like this. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
let me clarify my 3 apples a day.
Yes.
Listen, when I said 3 apples a day, I'm not having any other sugar in that meal.
Nice.
Okay, so the reason why I wouldn't gain weight, consuming 3 apples a day, is because there's nothing else. That's it. That's the only form of sugar. So
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I preface that, because you could definitely gain weight if you're having other forms of sugar, but that's
Oh, I
it.
was worried. I could see people eating nuts, having 3 apples, eating berries,
No.
having their 3 paleo muffins a day from their
Yeah,
favorite
it's
site.
that would
No.
be it. But if you're gonna have it, and you find yourself craving other junk food after you have a good meal, you need to up your fiber intake, whether it be from
Oh.
apple or something else. Definitely want to increase the fiber.
That's the
That's
problem I've been having. I don't eat nearly. I have to confess, I don't eat nearly enough vegetables. Lately, I've been buying, bunches of organic celery and just chomping
No.
it and maybe dipping it into a little bit of organic almond butter. And it's so wonderful. Or I have to confess, dipping into my daughter's organic peanut butter. Dad,
wow.
where's my peanut butter? I don't know. But a typical meal for me is one of my favorite meals is maybe a grass-fed steak with a big scoop of whole-fat cottage cheese and a handful of walnuts. And I know that where's the green? I know, but I love sweet potatoes, and man, lots of butter on them. And I've always eaten like that since I've discovered the primal lifestyle. But I'm not doing the cardio anymore, and the calorie level of calories is still high. So let me ask you this, fellas, and I know you'll be able to speak to it. My sense is that lifting weights somehow, and yes, men have hormones too. Uh, Lifting the weights has enacted something in my biochemistry, and my body's. I mean, I have added some muscle. I feel good, but I've also added about 4 or 5 pounds of body fat. What if anything do you guys think that the weightlifting has sort of
Well, now because of the age you're at now, I mean, you're a little bit older. You have a decline.
49?
You have a decline in testosterone. When you start working out, your body's going to start making more
Well,
testosterone.
hold on a minute, pal. A
We all-
decline.
but I mean, as your body increases testosterone, you've lowered your cardio. You also could have an excess of estrogen, and we talk all the time on the show about consuming more broccoli to reduce estrogen in the blood. And
Oh, wow.
because when your body increases testosterone, sometimes a natural part of it is more estrogen. So you start getting
Good
puffy. so you might feel like, oh, cool, I can feel my muscles underneath this layer of fat.
Right.
And what that is right there is you need to reduce estrogen. And sometimes when you have more fat on the body, your body makes more estrogen anyways. So
Wow.
you need to, hone in on those really dark greens. So like spinach, broccoli, all that stuff that, it's a little more difficult to eat that you don't want to eat. You got to be eating it. It cleans your blood. So I mean, Gary can speak to that also, but that would be my
That's
premise.
good insight. Very good insight.
Yeah, me and Frank we've talked about the vegetable intake, and that's why I like talking to people who are going through the journey as well, because that is probably the most pronounced difficulty everyone has, is they don't eat enough vegetables. Everyone.
Yeah.
People live in the paleo lifestyle, people live in the primal lifestyle, people who are the experts in it, they always struggle with getting enough vegetables. That is not
Wow.
uncommon. So I want people to understand that is one of the battles you're going to fight, is the vegetables, because it is a little tough to prepare. Heath is lazier than me. He doesn't like to cook his own food. But, I
My
cook all my own food pretty
Come
much
on,
for the most
Heath.
part.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, I have a 2-year-old. I mean, my wife and I are really busy. But what I said is, I make the effort to always. I have vegetables every day, and whether I steam them up or not. And I have wheatgrass, or I'll have broccoli or something, So I'm taking in a lot of greens. For lunch, I'm taking in a dark green spinach salad, but topped with chicken or something else. So I mean, it's you just have to do it. That's it. And I mean, I don't know. I try not to. For me, I'm like highly sensitive to carbs, so I would even try to back off the sweet potato.
Oh,
I know, but just it just keeps sticking out because you keep saying it's your favorite, but at the
I
same
have. You're exactly right. My sense is you're speaking my language. I have really backed off. I was eating at least one big sweet potato every day, slathered with, organic butter, and I've stopped doing that. And maybe you can confirm. I'm thinking, based on what you guys are saying, I'm thinking maybe the tweaks are, um, you know, um, well, you tell me, what would the tweaks be? Maybe
Well,
Gary, you can go and.
Well, and this is what I tell everyone. And this is a common problem too. What people do when they start to put on weight, in order to compensate for it, they start to exercise more. Now, if your exercise levels are already good, well,
Yeah.
the first thing I tell them, don't play with your exercise levels first. Mess with your diet first. See, and take out some of the carbs. And that's where I always tell them to start. Look at your carb intake and go, am I consuming too many carbohydrates for what I'm expending? If you are, back off the carbs. It's better for your body, because now you're not going to go out and kill yourself, going running 10 miles because you're gaining weight
Yeah.
every day, because that's what people do. They instantly up their exercise. I
Yeah.
say cut out carbs first, cut them down, and if that doesn't work, then up your exercise.
right.
Everyone does it in reverse. They do it backwards.
I mean, think about bodybuilders. What do they do when they want to bulk up? We just had Jason post on here. He's an IFBB pro, and what do? They consume more carbs to
Yeah.
get bulky, right? And what do they do when they want to get lean and cut? They remove the carbs. It's real simple, and they cut the sugar. So because it works every single time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys don't even like to do cardio. They just tweak their diet. They're just pumping weights, and they're cutting their carbs and sugar intake, and their bodies rapidly transform. And
Bodybuilders hate cardio.
Yeah.
Absolutely hate it.
so
I
imagine
love sprinting. Sprinting. I like to sprint. I did a sprint workout yesterday. Almost 50 years old, and you see, I was at a park across from the high school, and you see these kids walking to lunch. They're like, "Who is that old fart over there sprinting?"
Gas
But
out
I can
and
do
over.
it.
Yeah.
and if you're sprinting and your diet's in tune, your body will rapidly transform. But you know what? You just gotta do a few tweaks. Add the vegetables, add some spinach. Make sure you consume some broccoli a few times a week. Add the spinach. and back off the potato, and take a look at, fat doesn't make you fat like we talked about before.
Right.
But if you're slathering everything in too much butter, your calorie count is way through the roof.
Right.
So, and you might be taking in more calories than your metabolism's able to burn. So it doesn't know what to do with it all. So if you back down the cardio, all of a sudden you're not burning as many calories. And guess what? You're still taking in this abundance of calories from fat. Your body's not utilizing it. So why take in that overabundance of fat?
That's exactly what happened, and
Well,
I
yeah.
feel now that I've halted the cart,
Yeah.
and I feel like I'm reeling it back in, and just this morning I'm like, okay, I feel better. I'm not going over the edge mentally with it anymore. Oh my God, I gained 9 pounds. And I can feel like I've stopped the freight train from going over and I'm sort of backing it out and making the tweaks. A lot of them, I'm not drinking. I was drinking a couple of big glasses of whole milk every day, a lot of sugar. I'm sure you guys will agree with that.
Yeah, there you go.
I've backed off the sweet potatoes. I've stopped eating the Quest bars. I mean, oops, sorry, did I say that out loud? They're fantastic, depending on which ones you choose. But I've stopped eating those because I was eating 2 or 3 a day, and they're still processed. Isn't that right, Gary? There's some processing where it's not necessarily as good for you.
Yeah, and what we've, and you must have a really good person you consult with, because you're taking these really good steps. I'm joking.
It rhymes with Gary.
It rhymes around there. Yeah. So, no, but you're on the right path, and I think that's what's important. Is what we want to show people is this path, that it never ends, and even me and Heath go through it. It's not unique to us. And I know you've talked to me and said, God, Gary, I'm off and you think it's just you. And I'm all frank. I go through the same thing too. I'm no different. We all go through it.
Yeah.
I think that's the important part. No matter how much of an expert or how far you're into it, you're always going to have the same struggles. And I want people to understand that, because people do. The mental side of this lifestyle and the change is a huge, huge kind of stumbling block, because your mind will play tricks on you. And now you're thinking, oh my God, I'm the only guy out here who's done Primal, and now I'm gaining weight. I'm a loser. I've failed. And no, that's not how it works. That is not it at all.
Yeah.
It was rough. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, well, Frank, you keep mentioning something that is over and over again, and that's your level, your consumption level of dairy. So you have your milk, there's sugar there. You have cottage cheese, more sugar there. All really difficult to digest. And if you weren't consuming organic, kind of grass-fed sourced, dairy, you would also be possibly, exposing yourself to xenoestrogens, which create more estrogen in the body. So that's one of the reasons why we try to eliminate that. So my suggestion to you is Silk makes like a coconut almond blend that's unsweetened, that tastes really good, that has basically no sugar. You're still going to get your calcium, and it tastes really good. And there's no carrageenan in the Silk brand, which is a gut inflammatory, so they don't use that in theirs. Also, there's for ice cream, you said you like to snack on that. There's coconut ice cream from So Delicious that has no added sugar. So that would be another one. So you just got to arm your pantry with stuff that it doesn't have sugar and it has a reduced amount of carbs, and you'll be fine. Now, Quest bars specifically, I can't eat more than like one every now and then of Quest, because they have milk, and they trigger, for me at least, mucus. So like I have allergies, it makes it worse. And so once again, there's a lot of dairy in Quest bars.
Wow!
Not to mention the whey. So they are low carb, but a lot of people can't consume it simply because they have milk protein isolate. So this is something to be aware of. Not to mention, you don't know how much almond that they're using in their blend. So almonds contain phytic acid, which also could hinder your weight loss. So over too many almonds.
Is it the phytic acid that increases the ghrelin, which increases your hunger? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So it's
something like that.
All of a sudden you start craving like 4 or 5 Quest bars because they taste so good, and then you're done, and each one's 200 calories, and your cardio's gone down, and there you go.
Yeah.
So
you guys, and that's what I mean. We all do it. We all slide off the rail. I've been on the road for 3 months here, And there's been a couple times, you know, a couple weeks where, yeah, I'm like, oh, wow, that was a bad, bad week. And, you know, there's nothing, you know, there's nothing I can do about it. But you have to remember, that, again, that range, and it's the 80-20 rule. If you're following it 80% of the time and 20% you slide off, you're going to be far healthier than 99.9% of the general public.
That's where I'm at. That's where I've
Yeah.
been. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been at points where I'm 95%, 95 plus percent. But it'll move. That dial is always moving because it depends what's going on in life. But long as you stick with that 80-20 rule, you're going to be solid. I mean, you're always going to be far healthier. Your weight's going to be pretty stable. But let's face it, it's life. You know, it's the way it goes. And that's why I like having you relate your story, because I think what you've told is exactly what a lot of people following the paleo primal lifestyle are getting into it. They run into the same thing, all of them. And that's what we want to expose, that people know that, hey, here's Frank. Here's a guy that, you know, an average guy that went out there and changed his lifestyle, and here's the problems he's had, here's the successes he's had. And for you, what would you say, kind of to wrap this up, what would you say going through this lifestyle change was the biggest stumbling block?
I would say the biggest stumbling block is listening to too many different sources and or differing opinions, and the confusion that it caused for me. I would say that.
Yeah, that's a common one. It's getting more and more because it's getting to be more and more popular. So you're getting more and more people who are out preaching it, and it's going to cause more confusion. That's in anything.
Well, I would say with you, Gary, with Gary, and you, Heath, for your listeners, your viewers, I would say that with you guys, the Primal Power method specifically is more. It's more honest.
Thanks.
It's not about the book, or I want to. Although you do have products available, that's not your driving force. And that's what my wife Sabrina and I loved so much, what resonated so deeply with us. It's you really give a darn about people and their health. I mean, you've taken the time to talk to me, a guy you didn't know from Adam, and it really, really helped me a lot, you know. It's hard, you know, because food can be emotional for people, you know, and then you start lifting weights and you do martial arts, and that can drum up all kinds of weird stuff with you, mentally, emotionally, and you know, my faith in God has kept me on track. But you know, the differing opinions and people trying to sell you stuff, and it being all about the buck and their books, and you know, calling paleo what it isn't, and that's not you. You'd give the plain truth. You're the no BS kind of guy, and we appreciate that.
Well, I really appreciate that, because believe me, me and Heath both take our lumps. We get attacked, and people say some pretty hurtful things, believe it or not. And I've been called some pretty vile names and called a liar, and I'm just a salesman, and all I want to do is sell books. And anyone who knows me knows that is the furthest thing from the truth.
Yeah.
And you know, Heath has put so much work into his products and making them as clean as possible. But you know, it comes with the territory. I mean, if we didn't care, both of us would have definitely given up and done something else by now, because we're pretty smart guys, and there's other things we could do besides this. So I'm glad it resonates, in that you see it and your wife sees it, and it's a pleasure for me to meet people like you and your wife, and that's why I love helping people like you, because you guys really want to change. I mean, and you're doing it for the reason I always say, it's not about changing your health, it's about becoming a better person and changing your life.
Yeah.
You know, those all go together. I've always said, if you're an a-hole, a fat a-hole, well, and you don't change your mental aspect and way you look at things, being a skinny a-hole doesn't change anything.
Yeah. Well, I've been both.
I have to. Trust me, we all have.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at a place, I think, and Heath is as well, that, you know, it's not about that anymore. It's about a greater good, and we actually really do care about what we do. So we really appreciate you coming on, Frank. And, you know, we would like to answer questions, so you can contact Heath at heath@theprimalshow.com, and me at gary@theprimalshow.com. And make sure to hit the subscribe button for all of our latest shows so you can keep track. And hopefully we'll get some more people on here like Frank, and you can always come on and fill us in on how you're doing.
Appreciate you fellas very, very much. Just so thankful for the hard work and the effort that you put into helping people like me.
Thanks a lot, Frank.
Talk to you soon. All right.
Take care, you guys. Bye-bye.